Welcome back. Now, at that NEC meeting, the Attorney General of Ekiti State had declared that the state is a reference point for best practices on issues relating to the justice sector. In fact, the state's Ministry of Justice has a 12-month action plan tagged a presentation on specific activities for transforming the administration of justice in Ekiti State. The plan, I believe, expires in April 2014, so I sought to know from the AG how well the state has done with its justice sector reform plan. We talked about that and some other issues. Let's start with the issue of this discipline of judges. It's very topical, especially because I've heard some of your colleagues say that it's going to have the effect of putting judges under a lot of pressure. Most of them will start to look over their shoulders in the exercise of their discretion. Do you think that that is a valid argument, or are we putting them under more pressure than they already are?
I think our judges work under pressure anyway. One of the things that we see constantly is a lot of petitions with respect to, even normal cases, that happens every day. But since the Chief Justice of Nigeria came into office, one of the things we have seen is that her desire to enforce accountability and transparency in the judicial process. And I think that is good. That is good for the judges themselves, and that is also good for the justice sector itself. What we need to do is to try as much as possible to achieve fairness in the process. And I hope that when NJC receives these petitions, they are dealt with speedily, but also dealt with in a manner that is fair, to the respective judge concerned.
What about those who say that the NJC is now being seen as some kind of appellate courts? That when lawyers have bad cases, instead of going to the next court to test it, they now write petitions.
I think the increase, if there is that, of the number of petitions that the NJC is receiving now, is a vote of confidence in the NJC, And I think that has a lot to do with the determination that the Chief Justice of Nigeria has gone about the process of, insisting on accountability in the judicial process. So, no, I don't think it's a matter of Court of Appeal. I think there's confidence in the ability of the NJC to respond to these issues, and that is a good thing.
We've heard that the administration of Governor Kayode Fayemi in the past 3 years has embarked on some radical reforms in the administration of justice. It's also something that you've constantly alluded to, being a person of reform yourself. We've heard about the administration of criminal justice bill. Is that similar to the one that operates in Lagos?
We looked at Lagos because Lagos definitely, with respect to that bill, is best practice, what we have. But what we have tried to do is again to look at our own environment. We do not have the resources that Lagos has, unfortunately. But what we have done is to propose a bill, now a law, that responds to the needs of our people, particularly those who come into conflict with the law, to ensure that they are treated fairly, speedily, and in a manner that enhances our vision of a justice system that is fair to all, irrespective of gender, economic situation, or any other difference.
The gender-based violence bill, can you tell us what is that about?
Agenda 8 of the 8-point working mandate, I call it, of the Fayemi administration, emphasizes the role of women, affirming the sort of women in public and private life. We have zero tolerance for all forms of violence against women. So what we have done is to provide a legal framework for enforcing that. Yes, we know that it all has to do, or much of it has to do with public education. But while we continue, to educate people, we think that it's also important that we have a legal framework that enforces, the rights of particularly women not to subject to any form of abuse.
I recall that when you were a few months, we had a conversation like this, and you mentioned that you were going to publish a clear program of action for reforms to the judiciary, which you did.
Yes.
How far with achieving all of that?
Well, I think without being immodest, we have tried as much as possible to implement much of what we said we are going to do. Under 3 headings, legislative reform, we have proposed and passed some of the most radical laws, in the Adjourn of Justice, Adjourn of Criminal Justice Bill, Equal Opportunities Bill, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, across board. We are focused on public interest legislation, ensure that we pass laws that will make a difference to the lives of our people. At the level of the institution, again, we are focused on social reform. We know that, the Ministry of Justice is the lead ministry with respect to the justice sector. So it's important that we are seen to properly lead, and charity, as I said, begins here, begins in the Ministry of Justice. One of the things we have tried to do here is to, again, uplift the working ethics and the skills of our lawyers. We have refurbished the whole Ministry of Justice, believing that what we do is as important as the environment in which we work. All our lawyers now have computers or have access, to computers. So we are constantly looking at measures to ensure that we are able to deliver service to the state in a professional and efficient manner. At the level of policy, again, we have tried to change, the way we do things and emphasize those policies that make sense, to our people or that meet the needs of our people. Again, in criminal justice, we have proposed a prosecutorial guidelines, so that people can see, why we take some decisions, that we're trying to increase transparency in the prosecutorial process. We have, for the first time in Nigeria, a register of sex offenders, which affirms as zero. Ekiti has, yes. No, I don't think any other state has it in this country, which affirms, a zero tolerance policy for all forms of sexual, violence. We are again responding to the concern that what we do here is simply to focus on the offenders, and that once we're able to successfully prosecute the offenders, we forget the victims. We are responding to that. For the first time anywhere in Nigeria, we have a state executive council approved service charter for victims of crimes, where we talk about issues of compensation or even giving information to the victim with respect to what we are doing to respond, to their particular situation. So across board, we have made, I think, tremendous progress. We can still do more. I'm still not satisfied with the number of remand persons in our prisons. We can do a lot more to reduce that number. Having said that too, we have tried along those areas to make sure that the turnaround time in which DPP's advice is issued is drastically reduced. From my office, it takes just 48 hours for me to comment on DPP's advice. All the inmates in our prison, thankfully we have just one prison at Ekiti, all our inmates now we have introduced a manual tracking system, file. So all the inmates in our prisons have file, where we have all the information about them, plus their legal status. So across board, we have tried. Absolutely, it's now readily available. So we are now, doing as much as we can to ensure that, particularly in the area of criminal justice, we deliver results that are fair, that are just, that are efficient, and that are effective.